Hey everybody, XEI here, and welcome back. I have made it through the second series of this omnibus, this thin omnibus of Dragon Age called Those Who Speak. It strongly features Isabella. It's Isabella, Varric, Alistair, but it strongly features the background history or the backstory of Isabella. A lot of reveals that I think were kind of scattered throughout Dragon Age 2, but it was explicit here. You learn some stuff. Well, explicit. Point of views matter because she's telling the story to the Kunari that's taken her captive, etc., etc. So, points of view is always something funny in Dragon Age in particular because, of course, like we're all playing the game, and so we can all have a version of the story. And this graphic novel or the canon of the comic books do follow their own canon, but their canon isn't our canon. Our story is our story, and so it's kind of interesting because when you have things that aren't explicit because of choices that can be made in the game, it's kind of left loosey-goosey, and then you can kind of bake yourself into some of the stuff that's going on, but at the same time you sort of can't because, of course, if your game doesn't have Alistair as king, then this is all just another kind of version of the Thetis universe. I have some ideas, but anyway, so basically how this story starts is Alistair and Varric and Isabella they go to Tevinter. They're after this man right here, Magister Titus, and it's pretty short-lived. Things go south, and then they basically have to make a retreat, and they get help from another Magister. Her name is Maeve, I think. Let me just confirm that. Come on, quicker. May. It's short form for Magister Maveris, which is, let's see if I can get her in there. She's there we go, the lady in the blue. And there's a comment here, like really early on, where it says that presumably she was married to Varric's cousin. So, okay, interesting dynamic at play there, because we've kind of seen scenarios where humans are with elves and then they have children and the children look human. I don't recall any stories of humans with dwarfs. So I don't know how that all plays out. I don't know if they just look human. Someone's probably explained that to me in the comments at some point. I don't remember. Not really important, but it was kind of an interesting information drop here because it doesn't really go anywhere. But maybe she appears in the third series, so like the last third of this graphic novel. We'll see, but it's just weird that they would have introduced a character and then moved on. So I anticipate something happening from that. Obviously, Titus, there's still going to be more with Titus because they basically have to flee, and then they get intercepted by a Kunari vessel. And we got two of them right there. One of them, she doesn't have a name. Well, she has a name. She's referred to something, but she's a Tamasaran. Oh my god. Yeah, Tamasaran. So she's a Tamasaran. She's kind of like the priestess, the ones who make the ones that make decisions in Kunari society. And so they take all of these people prisoner, and there's this thing where Isabel is imprisoned and she's getting interrogated. I do have to talk about this panel a little bit more. It might be random, but I'm going to talk about it. But she's getting interrogated, and it's like this Tamasaran wants to know her name, and I'm like, what? Her name is Isabella. Why you? But I'm like, oh no, okay. So she's hiding a real name. See, the idea of the name is a very important idea in fantasy and storytelling. There's the idea of like the power in names. So when you know something's name, you gain control over it. So that's why you get like a lot of evil magic users when they learn the name of of some demon or devil, they can summon that devil by their name. There's the other thing in Dragon Age that I've kind of picked up on. It's the idea of the Kunari society is that they don't have individual names. Therefore, they don't have an identity, really. Their identity is the group. It's like if you're a Stan, you're all just Stans. And if you're Tamasaran, you're all Tamasarans. If you're Cerebus, you're all Cerebus. And it's the idea that identity, again, isn't about one person. Your name, their name, becomes everyone that they represent. That's their role. Their role is their name. So I thought that was interesting, kind of how they play around with that idea. And then it's the idea of the story of Isabella saying she won't give her name. You sort of get the breakdown of kind of really crappy stuff. Like she's got a really horrible history. but it's that she almost doesn't give her name because she can't accept who she is. So she doesn't accept her past identity. So she became Isabella because the captain of the ship at that time had given her the name Isabella, which is little pretty or small pretty or something. And it was kind of like as a joke. And so she kept that name because, again, it's just she's replacing her identity with a new identity, and then she becomes the queen of the sea. She becomes the entire, I think, promiscuous persona gets baked into that, and she really starts to lose her identity. And so by the end of this particular series, she does give her name. It's Naish or something like that, and it doesn't really come to any outside of the meta layer. So the meta layer about names, if you kind of know how names work in fantasy, you sort of you get a plot beyond the plot, which I like that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about something in the panel right there. I'm going to zoom in. You see that stuff on the wall right there? See that writing? I mean, when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's just like, just standard kind of glyphy kind of stuff that you carve into walls, right? So it's all angular and stuff. But where have we seen writing that's angular and carvy like that on stone? I wonder. So I just thought it was interesting. Maybe it's an accident, but David Gator is kind of the architect of these storylines. He's I think plotted the stuff, and then someone else scripts. I will say I'll kind of talk about the script. The scripting in this one was a little bit. It wasn't as slick as the first third of this omnibus, the first series. It wasn't as slick, and the pacing was a little. It was just, again, it was fast, but fast in a very jarring way. There's a lot of point of view switches that happen between panels, and then the other thing is like the scripting. The scripting was okay, but the lettering, I would have to find examples of it. But the lettering I felt like it was all over the place. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Here's the thing. Then they close up on it, right? I mean, she's reading something. And you assume it's, I don't know, the language of maybe the book of Koslin is written in this. Maybe this is the Kossuth tongue. This feels like what I saw in the Deep Roads. So just a curious little connection there. Like they do things like this where there's like a double page spread, but the panels, it feels like the break is in the middle, and so you think you're reading the one page and then reading the next one, but no, it sort of flows across both. The lettering is not. There's a way that you have to letter comic books so that the flow of the action connects with the bubbles you need to read in sequence that they're intended. And so if you break up the flow, like your eyeball isn't going where it's intuitively being pulled to go, then you start to read things out of order. And it didn't just happen once. It happened probably 5 or 6 times throughout this entire series. So I thought that was kind of weak. Unfortunately, they could have done much better there. We do learn that Isabella's mother, she gets pulled into the to the Coon. Isabella doesn't want to be part of the Coon, and then her mother basically trades her off or sells her off to Louise, the merchant from Antiva. She gets married, and then we know the story basically from the game. She rebels, gets killed, she gets free, she becomes the queen of the Eastern Seas or something. So we learned the story of the slavery shipments that she gets kind of paid to do, but then the Orlesians come upon their vessel. In order for them to save their own hides, they have to dump the slaves overboard. That was really dark. So that's the part where she regrets. That's kind of your act 2, where there's that big disruption and her kind of having to come to some new kind of discovery and evolution of her of just what her story is, what her quest is. At this point, with this story, it's a personal quest she's on to sort of gain control of herself again, instead of always feeling like she's controlled by the action around her, by the events around her, which basically she becomes a slave to, the world around her, as opposed to having control over it, over like agency over it. So you get to the end of it, and she has a talk with Alistair. As before I get there, there's like an interaction with Alistair, and we find out that the Arishok is Sten, but of course Sten is not his name. It's Arishok now, and so we have a little bit of a dialogue there, which plays on the theme of names again, which I thought was kind of. It was well orchestrated from a meta standpoint, and it's Sten struggling with his new role, but the Alistair and Sten, like, they were kind of allies at one point, so there's like the honor thing is there, so they have a fight, and Alistair just keeps calling him Sten, because to Alistair, from his point of view, Sten is Sten. That's his identity, and Alistair even makes a comment that he's kind of only ever met one Kunari. So to Alistair, Sten is a name. Sten is not a role. It doesn't matter how many times you tell him. So I thought that was interesting, because it's kind of of a debate of like Sten just accepting the fact that his identity is that he fought alongside the hero Ferelden. He fought alongside Alistair. They fought along the like side during the event with the Archdemon and the Fifth Blight, and so it's coming to terms with that. So he does defeat him, and kind of in the Dragon Age 2 scenario, if you defeat, you can kind of make requests of it. And so he asks Sten to join him in going after Titus. They're going to join their forces, and so Sten gives them 2 Kunari vessels. And this kind of came up in the first story too, where it looks like not maybe a little flirty with Alistair, but you kind of feel it there a little bit too. But you don't know if it's like just because like he's growing on her as a friend, but it's kind of a job. But it looks like she's committing to this task, and it means more than that. And so he says in the page before, "Lovely, then that'll have to do for now. Ready, Isabella?" And she says, "Ready to go, but I'm not sure I'm Isabella any longer." What? And that's Alistair. What? It's only a name, you see. I'm looking at all my options. So that's the kind of impactful Act 3. It's the resolution. It's her story kind of coming to a close, and her taking control of her future. I was getting legitimately concerned that she was gonna die in that series. I thought she was going to, as she was gonna free her crew, that something was gonna go south, and in her trying to free the crew and kind of get control of her life, that was gonna be like the ultimate sacrifice. I got a little bit worried because I'm like, I don't think I experienced her in Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm still playing Inquisition. If you're just jumping onto this video, don't spoil me in the comments below. I don't know, or I don't remember. Was she on the map? Did she ever get mentioned? Did she ever get mentioned on the map? I don't know. I don't remember, but I got worried. There was a point there where I'm like, oh, this is her story. This is how it's going to end. She's going to finally come around, but it's going to like nail her. So in the third story, it looks like we're going now to... Oh, we do get another confirmation that Sten does have a theory that Alistair carries the blood of the dragon. So Sten knows at least something more than he's getting on about, which is like, how did he know about that? Unless my presumption, my speculation is that it would be some reference in the Book of Coslin, and so maybe that's in their teachings. They just know that this is a thing. Maybe they know just enough about their history of where they came from with the Kossuth. All of a sudden, all these names are finally coming to me. It's funny because I record a video. I'm like, what was the original Kunari again? So I have to cut around a bunch of clips from the last video, and then I finish recording. I'm like, the Kossuth, man. Well, I don't ever remember these things when I'm recording. Anyway, so the next one is called Until We Sleep. So just in the title there, if I can speculate, we got in the first book, the Slumbering Dragons, that they go to the Silent Grove to sleep. We get a reference in the second book to the cult of dragon, the dragon cult, or the cult of the dragon. I don't know how that works. We encounter a cult of the dragon that worship the dragon that they call, that they believe is Andraste in Haven. And so we get another call back to that. And it's sort of, now it's starting to link these little pieces where it's like the thread that goes across the 3 books, I presume. They're just reminding us, especially if you've played the games, you can put a lot more context together here. But it looks like they're going to now bring this all together. The third story is going to be, if I think about the third story as the Act 3 in context of this entire graphic novel, then it's going to bring these things together where it's going to be an Alistair tale again, but it's going to be about the actual blood. So either he's going to find a Merrick, he's going to find out that Merrick has been killed, he's going to find that history. I think they're going to give us that resolution. I don't know. I guess they could let it hang because it might still be important for Inquisition because I'm not done playing the game, but I feel like what happens in this story, though, is important to the beginning of Inquisition because we know that it was to awaken the last dragon, the last sleeping dragon, which we can make a presumption of what dragon that is. I don't know, I might be presuming something here, but that the last dragon is the one that now Corypheus then kind of got all tainted up with red lyrium, and then it becomes part of the Inquisition storyline and one of the adversaries, so in sync with in league with Corypheus. So I don't know if like that's connected or if there's another dragon that I'm missing and that's something else, but I think like if I counted correctly, all of the dragons are dead. All the archdemons are dead. So there could be more dragons. We fought 12 dragons in Inquisition. I'm sure there could be other dragons. I don't even know how to recommend the reading order of this book, though, because it technically happens before Inquisition. And so it would have given you some of the pieces and the context behind the dragon that appears in Inquisition. It wouldn't have just been oh my god. I mean, it still was. I was still like, oh my god, there's another archdemon. Corypheus has control of this thing. It's tainted with red lyrium or some crap, and it's going to be the big bad or something. The big archdemon of the end of this game is going to be this dragon, I'm sure. Or like it's the dragon and Corypheus. But I think what happens in here might be feeding into how that all played out. Hell, we don't even really know how Corypheus came. It just dawned on me. I don't even know how that happened, because in Dragon Age 2, you sort of take care of Corypheus. And so something happens between Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, where Corypheus both enters the scene again, and he's got this red dragon. So I wonder if it's going to be the third part of this omnibus. It's going to be the third series is going to be talking about that. So I'm going to be reading that one soon. Why would I almost flipped through it. I'm a dummy. Just shut the book. Just leave it on the table. I'm going to be reading it soon, and I'll be back with my review. Not really a review, just my ramblings on about the book and how it relates with the experience so far with all of the Dragon Age games. It's been a lot of fun. So I'll catch you there. Don't forget to explore, engage, and inspire, buddy. Peace.